video. Easy peasy. And then people who aren't here can watch the video.
Awesome. I was actually gonna share the live stream. Um, so
Oh,
from
okay.
Facebook, I can do that because I have people that follow my Facebook and they'll possibly join if you'd like.
Yeah, for sure. What do you need from me?
What's the name of the Facebook?
Oh, let's see. It's my personal account.
Okay.
Um, hmm. Oh, it's just Daniel. I think it's Dan Frey. Let me check.
Let's see. Oh yeah, I already got you. Here we
Oh, you got
go.
me. Okay. So you see it live streaming?
Yep, I see it.
Okay. Okay,
Oh yeah,
good.
I already got you. Here we
Oh, you
go.
got me. Okay. So you see it live streaming?
Oh,
There's a
yeah, echo. Hold
echo.
on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I already got you. Here we
Oh,
go.
you got me. Okay. You see it? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Good. No more echo.
All right, we are going live here.
So we'll start in 3 minutes.
All right, awesome. I'm sharing this out right now. So that'd be pretty cool to do that.
Eric, can I make you co-host? All right.
Okay.
So it's we've got 3 folks from New York City here and a couple of folks from Massachusetts. And we'll see who comes in within the next 3 minutes, and I'll introduce you.
Awesome.
Is something going on in the chat? Let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's your document, right, Jonathan? Okay. Mhm.
It's a big deal. Massachusetts is definitely wants to put a lot of real peer support in libraries, meaning like free public libraries. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, it's great, and it's a good idea because if you're like a guy that having a really tough time, and you say, I was really depressed, so I decided to learn about getting good at peer support at my local library. It sounds good.
Um, Mental health peer support in the library, in the public library. Yeah,
It's a great idea.
that's
Yeah,
progressive. That is progressive.
I
it's a
think
big deal.
Massachusetts, oh, I'm sorry. I think Massachusetts has the best mental health. I like believe it, the best OCD hospital. They really do have good mental health.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think so too, but there's sort of a
Yeah.
problem because the Massachusetts, we have great mental health, but if you're an inpatient, most places, if you are an inpatient in Massachusetts, you have no access, or at least not much access to real coffee or even outdoor cigarette smoking at all. So I
Same
mean,
I
it's not
here.
a,
I don't
Same here.
smoke and I don't eat donuts, but but I am really interested in peer support being in the libraries. I for years I was
Mhm.
working at a peer support crisis alternative center called the Living Room that anyone could drop into. But a lot of people going through struggles who might have never dreamt of going to see a therapist might have also felt uncomfortable going to a place that sounded mental health-ishy. But libraries, I think, are community spaces that have it baked in to respect people. They don't see people as the people who come in as being misguided or troubled. They see everyone coming in as being resourceful and being learners and looking to learn more. And I was talking with some others about places that are hiring not just drop-in peer support, but staffing peer specialists regularly at libraries. And I'm interested in doing that as a way of, meeting people where they are, you know. Um, and I can think of times when I've gone to libraries for enrichment. I can think of when I went to libraries when I was unhoused, for community, for resources. Yeah. And I think it's a nice opportunity to really integrate people in a really real way. When I was working briefly with like group living environments, they had this theory of integrating people into the larger communities, but it was limited in how much that was done. And working in libraries and being able to meet people where they are and supporting the whole person sounds like a beautiful idea to me.
Let's consider tabling that conversation. It's very interesting. And let's introduce our guest. Hello, welcome to a very special Peer Workers United support group. Today, we have our guest, Thomas Jackson. He's the only peer professional in a large organization. Are you still working for that organization, Thomas?
Actually, I'm not. I am. So I started out as the only peer at an organization in Thurston Mason Behavioral Health, but I'm no longer at that company now. I'm actually owning my own company called Let's Get Human LLC, which now I'm the only peer for sure here.
Well, how long were you with this other organization as the only
Uh,
peer?
Yeah, so I was with them for 2 years. I started
Oh,
in the program as the only peer in the organization and built and as they hired more peers. But when I first started, I was the only peer and had no idea what was going on as a peer. So.
take it from here, Thomas. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, so when I first became a peer, it was pretty cool. I was super excited about it. I was learning a lot of different things about the peer world and what it meant to be a peer. And I go to work, and my second day, I'm like, this someone asked me to help them get them into treatment. Now, I had no idea how to get them into treatment. I had no idea how to get them into, and I didn't have any help. The only help that I had was an SUDP, and another person who worked in a different department that was managing another department was like, "Hey, we're willing to show you how to do this." Right. And so, when that person came back, they went, I got them, they helped me get them into treatment and thing. But when that person came back, they were looking for housing. And because they brought that person back to the same exact place where um, they kind of went to treatment. They were there for 8 hours trying to find housing versus getting the resources that they need before they came back. They kind of, went back into, the choice of life that, they were trying to break away from. And so it was really hard on me at first. I didn't know what to do. I was a little bit lost. I was I was frustrated, because I'm like, well, how am I supposed to do this? And no one knows, and I don't have anybody to look up to, um, as far as, being an actual peer. Right. And so I wanted to make sure that from that learning lesson that when peers either were going to treatment or in treatment or their assessment, like finding out what their needs were going to be, I wanted to be the innovator of that. Right. And I didn't want to just lose, I didn't want individuals to lose out on the opportunity to be well. And so, what I did was I wound up working with the SUDP. Jason Brandis is his name, and he kind of showed me how he does things as far as an SUDP does. But then I'm like, well, that kind of aligns with being a peer, but it's not peer because it's more clinical rather than being person first language. And so when I got the opportunity to sit there and kind of hash out the plan for creating this way of peering that is just really conducive to the people that I'm working with from start to finish. We created some best practices, and now actually we in Thurston Mason County, it's a best practice that they adopted to have the SUDP and the peer there, so that peer feels like they have that advocate throughout the entire process when they're going through services in that particular organization. And it worked out really well. It changed a lot of the dynamic of how, the information that peers are receiving, but also feeling like they have an advocate there for themselves. And when they're returning from treatment, they already have a plan in place set before they go.
2 years there.
I was 2 years there.
What's an SUDP?
It's a substance use disorder professional.
Oh, okay. Did you pave the way for are there now peers now there?
Yes, there's so many. Yeah, there's a lot of peers there actually. They have the law enforcement assisted diversion program there. They had peers in the HARPS program, but they just didn't have them in the particular lead program that started out until they moved to a bigger office. And so there's lots more peers there now in that program. There's a lot of peers that they have in the MAP program now too as well, the medical assisted treatment program that they have. So they built their program up as well. So from there, the reason why I was only there for 2 years is because I was hired for a different position, a more elevated position with another company. And so that's kind of why, but it all dealt around peer programming, even with the struggle for peers in clinical spaces. I had to deal with that as far as like helping clinicians understand the role of a peer when they're in these clinical spaces. It was very difficult to, allow them to see the role of a peer because they thought they were all taxi cab drivers for a minute, right? And or they were there to help people get around, or do all of these different things and take them to appointments. But I kind of helped them understand that we're not there to help people, so to speak, but we're there to assist them on helping themselves on their journey, right, to where they're trying to accomplish. Like if someone doesn't know the bus route, it's okay to ride the bus with someone to show them the route, but thereafter, it's their turn to take that step, right? For that self accountability. Like if this is your journey, or if there's no barriers from you catching the bus to your appointment, my job is to make sure that you know how to get there and how to do whatever it is that you need to do there. But once you know how, then you have a choice to make, right? On whether this is something that you want to continue in for yourself.
The peers that are there now, are they encountering the same issues you did? Or are you like cushioning them or something?
No, it's been so I actually developed the Washington Peer Network here for Peer Washington here in Washington State. And so that's a network that allows peers across Washington State to be able to connect with one another via an app, kind of like Facebook. And so they're able to communicate across state. So if they have, say, for instance, one of the barriers, I'm sure, if not in just what's in this state, amongst all states, was the fact that one peer would come from one side of the state to another, but the communication between peer counselors was not there. And so this is a way for peers to find other peers across the Washington state that they can connect with if they have a participant that they need to talk to. They also have a live feed, so events that are going on around Washington state. It has resources on there, a resource page for people to be able to utilize the resources across Washington State, and I was able to develop that for them while I was there.
Or it's called Peer Washington?
That's the company, is Peer Washington. Washington Peer Network was the app that I developed for while working with them.
You developed an app.
Yes.
You have technical expertise.
No, well, I had a team of experts. So I worked with a company that was able to have a platform, and then we implemented a lot of the tools and logos and stuff like that. So we built the community on top of a platform, which it's grown, I believe, from 0 in 2023 to over 2,000 members now.
2,000 people using the app,
Yes.
and the app isn't just for peer professionals, it's also for peers in general.
I know it's for peers in the workforce.
Oh, okay,
And
just for peers.
yeah, and it's also for organizations across Washington so that they can find other resources if there's a resource that's needed or become a resource. I developed a jobs database as well within that app, like kind of like Indeed, but specifically for peer jobs so that they're able to look at trauma-informed companies that look to hire peers.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I wish we
Yeah.
had something like that.
Well, listen, hey, I am the guy. If you need a consultant for it,
Yeah,
talk to me.
yeah.
For
And
sure.
and how do you get more users?
It's literally just by connecting with people, going to conferences, talking to them about it. It's so needed across, literally across the country, for peers to be able to in a place to be able to communicate. It's so important that communication barrier because most of the times in behavioral health, people are stuck in these silos, right? They're stuck in these silos and they only communicate within their either county or coalitions that they have set up. And really the issue that is going on is a statewide issue across every state, if not well, it's a national issue, but with substance use disorder and behavioral health. But people are only communicating in those particular spaces in their cities or counties. And the reach for the problem goes far beyond just your city and your county. It reaches the entire states that we're in.
So I'm using the app. I'm a peer professional. I work for organization ABC,
Uh-huh.
and I'm having some issues with supervision. So whatever issues it is, maybe they
Mhm.
want me to do things I don't feel comfortable doing. Can I talk to 2,000 other peer professionals and
Yes.
ask for advice?
Yes, you can. And that's the great thing about it. You absolutely can. You can ask the peers, like, hey, I'm going through this. What do you guys suggest I do? What are some things that, I can do? Or even, and I learned about managing up. I learned about managing up and helping individuals manage up and things of the sort like that. So they have the opportunity to really instead of saying, hey, they're not listening to me, maybe it's time for the peer to teach their management how to manage them.
Does it have to be limited to Washington?
So this particular app, because it belongs to the healthcare authority in Washington, but that does not necessarily mean that I can't build other networks.
To connect to the to make like a web of peer
Mhm.
networks all over the country, maybe even all over the world.
That's
That's an
correct.
ambitious and very worthy project. Eric, how's your mind going? Is your mind spinning, Eric?
Please do it.
I'm going to take a step back, Eric, if you want to take a step forward.
Not right now. Thank you, though.
All right,
All right,
awesome.
no problem, no
Sorry.
problem. So, so Thomas, tell us like about this business that you founded.
Yeah, so let's get human. So I founded it on a book that I wrote, right? So I was like, I'm tired of just the surface healing happening in these particular spaces, right? It only heals the surface, and it's like, let's just get you well enough, right? Let's just get you well enough to come back to the services, right? And do the services versus, hey, I want you to actually heal. I want you to heal internally. I don't want this to be something that you feel like you have to do for the rest of your life, but this is a way for you to heal because right now you needed assistance, right? It's just like breaking a bone, right? If you break a bone, you need to put it in a cast, you need to allow it to heal properly, right? But then after it's strong enough, you're able to walk on your own, right? Now, I'm not saying that everybody has this, right? Because there are certain, things that happen in certain conditions that, individuals may have need that prolonged assistance. But for the book that I created, it's for emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and financial wellness, and how to create a holistic wellness plan for yourself. Right. And one of the great things about that book is I utilized it myself, right? As I was going through it, I utilized it myself. And I was like, this helped me heal so much. Like I grew up in foster care, group homes, juvenile detention centers, jail. I was in prison with my father, who, was a heavy addict. And we were cellmates for a while. And I had a lot of hurt. I had a lot of, physical, sexual, mental, emotional abuse growing up as a kid. And I was like, I don't want to, and it wasn't anybody that told me medication is bad, but I was like, I've spent so long in my life not feeling that I just wanted to feel it, right? And I was like, if I don't, and I truly believe that in order to heal, you have to feel, right? That's the only way we know that our bones are healed, is when they feel different, right? When we kind of touch it, we're like, oh, still need assistance, but once it's healed, then we have that strength and it's fortified. And so I started learning how to feel my emotions, like sit with my emotions and build that emotional fortitude. A lot of our children, a lot of our parents, a lot of our families have in these marginalized places have not learned how to have that emotional fortitude. They haven't learned how to talk about mental wellness and what that looks like in their families or their children, right? We haven't had the opportunity to talk about spiritual wellness, right? Like I grew up as a Baptist, right? And we were in church every Sunday, sometimes till 2 o'clock in the morning. And I know you guys have probably heard, the the spirit isn't done till the spirit is done, right? But I realized as I grew, like that was a culture that and traditions that were handed down to me. It's not necessarily my belief. So I wanted to figure out, like, let me study and figure out what works for me. And to be honest, I now embrace all of it, right? But I just take what I need from my journey. And that's okay for me. It may not be that for someone else, but this is not everyone else's journey. This is just Thomas Jackson's journey, right? And so I started realizing like the strength that I have when I started dealing with my own spirituality and started going through my past traumas and start really sitting with that. I learned how to meditate. And let me tell you, meditation for me is a win. Okay. And so all of these tools I put in this book, I learned about, financial wellness. Like I didn't know that 30% utilization for your credit, right, meant that can have a higher credit score. Nobody talked to me about that. No one talked to me about a savings plan and how to save money, or when you acquire debt, how to pay back your debt, or am I checking in? How do I check in with myself, right? If I know that I'm well, all of these different tools I placed in this book. And I was like, you know what? I do public speaking already for work. I do, I do workshops. I can build curriculums. Why not just start out on my own? Why not just do this myself? Right? Instead of building someone else's dream, let's build your own dream, Thomas. Let's build your dream. Let's make this happen. You've done everything up for everyone else. And so I've really gotten to a point in my life where my motto is community over color. And the reason why I say that is because everybody in the community, whether you're Black, white, Asian, brown, Chinese, whatever, we all feel the atrocities that happens in our community. And when we band together as allies versus sections of people, we have such a more powerful voice to approach legislation for change than we would as individual groups. And so bringing those cultures back to communities, right? Bringing that culture of humanity back to community, bringing it back to the workplace, right? Bringing it back to the schools. Like, let's get human, right? Like, let's not focus on titles, because title doesn't make you more human than anyone, right? Your status in the community doesn't make you any more human. If something happens, guess what? We're all a decision away from destruction. We're all one trauma away from losing everything. So when we realize that as a human being, we can come together. Like we all share in sadness, we all share in frustration, we all been angry before, right? We've all been happy, right? We've all been overjoyed about things. And so we may not be able to see everyone's necessarily, we may not be able to relate to the situation, but we can relate to the humanity of the person. And so that's why I developed the Let's Get Human.
Humanity, being human means being a feeling creature, right?
Yeah, just yeah, exactly. Feel.
And I've heard it said that emotions are energy in motion. And when these energies, these emotions get trapped in the body, it's very painful. Is it
Mhm.
possible that not knowing how to flow with emotions is creating a lot of problems, such as mental health problems and turning to substances for healing?
Yeah, among many other factors, yes, 100%.
So
A hundred.
how important is it in our healing in terms of like healing from the need for substances or healing from the mental health emotional challenges? How important is it to learn how to, you called it fortify your emotions?
Mhm.
um I I is there a difference between fortifying your emotions um ra rather than like just like flowing with the emotions, allowing the energy to come and to do its thing and to feel it, and then it passes on and you're in a state of flow? That's how I see it, but tell me how you see it.
Well, I see it's building emotional strength, right? So it's like working out. So eventually your emotions will flow with wherever a situation may happen, right? So for instance, excuse me, for instance, if I'm going through a tough time, right? I want to allow myself to be like, hey, Thomas, you know what? This doesn't feel good. I know it doesn't feel good, but there's never been a moment where you not have been okay. Some people can go through an atrocity and be like, my life is over. This is it. I want to quit, right? So building that emotional fortitude or emotional strength, right? It's same thing. It puts you in that flow of, hey, I know this is going on, but I'm going to be okay. I just need to allow myself this moment to grieve. And however I decide to grieve, that's okay because I'm a human being and other people have grieved this way. I may not know who they are yet because I haven't had those particular conversations, but I know that as a human being, it's okay for me to feel like this. A lot of times we get so focused on societal norms that tell us it's not okay to grieve, that you only have 3 days to grieve and then you got to get back to work. That you don't have that, or it's not okay to be smiling because you come from, a rough area in your life, right? I grew up in Oakland, California, and being the smiley, happy-go-lucky guy might get you robbed, right? So, um, in that capacity, it's like how do I create this space for myself to know that I'm okay with me, however I show up, right? And that's where that emotional fortitude comes from. I mean, that's where that idea comes from. Is like I'm okay with me because I've sat with my emotions. I know when I'm angry. I know what gets me angry, and then I can show up authentically myself. I can tell somebody like, "Hey, listen, I really don't want to hang out right now because I'm going through something right now. But if you can sit with me, then that's okay." A lot of times we have to put on this image, right? That we're okay when we're not doing okay. And then we build it and build up. And just like you saying, there's an implosion that happens because we're holding on to so much, which 99.99% of the time, from the time that we are children, all the way to the time that we are adults, even through our adulthood, some people never get the opportunity to truly be themselves. They've been stuck in an image that they've been taught that they had to be, or they've been going to college for something that they've never wanted to go to college for, but because their family told them that this is who we are, right? Versus them saying, no, that's not who I am. That's who you created us to be, but that's not me, right? It causes um generational trauma. It causes, people going in and getting into SUD and finding something else other to bond with at their lowest point in their life because they feel so alone, right?
All right. Do you believe that you said societal norms, like the norm for men, a lot of men, to be macho and not
Mhm.
to cry and
Mhm.
to be tough through all the emotional experiences, not to express their emotions. Like you said, like in the neighborhood, not to smile and be happy because someone will see that as weakness and rob you.
Yeah.
That
It's
was your
yeah.
example.
Well,
So
even in the workspace,
what? Even
even
where?
in, even in the workspace, right? It's conform or be cast out, right? In the corporate world, right? If you're not conforming to the norms versus standing up for what you truly believe is right, or things like that, like you're cast out.
Okay, conforming. That means on the one hand, you'll feel like this is not right, but you'll feel it and you'll go against your gut feelings. And
Yeah.
that'll create some kind of pain, right? Some
Hmm.
kind of pain of what kind of pain would you describe that as? Going against your gut feelings, going against your morality, your values. What
Hmm.
kind of pain does that cause?
I mean, for me, growing up, having to go against my own moral compass, I would say that, it caused me to have relationships that weren't conducive to the future that I have now. It caused me to have take jobs, that I knew weren't good, but that hurt people, and it caused trauma within myself because I'm hurting myself trying to get somewhere, right? So all of those things cause me to feel like, number one, I'm not truthful. I don't have integrity. So it caused that negative self-talk, right? And then you look in the mirror, and I don't know if anybody has ever looked in the mirror and was like, man, I really love you. And yourself was like, no, you don't. Right. Right. Or they're like, man, you're the greatest person alive. And the mirror's like, bro, you just lied to that person the other day. No, you're not. And so wherever you go, you're going to have to take self with you, right? But we're so focused on fitting in with society and what society thinks is okay and what they've made to be okay, when literally, excuse my language, society isn't shit without you. You're the most important part of society. Like, we all created society. Man created society. So if man created society, why should we continue to let society determine who we are?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my girlfriend works for the Department of Health in New York City, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of like that. It's like working for a system, and the system always doesn't care about a lot of things. Doesn't care about the true value of a human being. Everything's statistics and tables and charts and it's hard to there isn't enough empathy. And so, but let's talk about values. Like,
Mhm.
if we now my girlfriend has values that
Mhm.
she's a progressive person, and
Mhm.
sometimes she witnesses things that in her culture, her office culture, that is incongruent with what she feels is important in life for human beings and for herself. And it bothers her. And she
Sorry.
comes home with it. Oh, you got a fly?
Yeah.
Um,
Surprise.
oh, well, hopefully the fly will stick around and maybe learn something.
Nobody's like,
Um,
get out of there.
so, so like to live with one values in a work culture, is the only way to create the only way to do that is to create your own business and be your own boss.
I mean, so whenever you're working for someone, you got to understand that you're working for their vision and their dream, right? That's at the end of the day, like that's what it is. Like, right. So in business, a lot of times people don't have that emotions. As an owner, you're like, well, I have bills to pay, right? In this vision that I've built, right? You're working within someone else's vision. So at the end of the day, you're replaceable. Whether you want to believe it or not, whether they make you believe that or not, you are replaceable, right? And when you lose your job, you're like, oh man, I just did all of this work. I built this, I did this, I could, I've created this, I've done this. And then you go home feeling like absolutely nothing because you spent your life building someone else's vision and then you have nothing to show for it when you're gone. My thing is you have the power, you have the vision to be able to create whatever it is that you want to create. Yes, is it financially, is it going to take costs? Absolutely. Is it going to take networking? Yes, it's going to take all of those things, right? I tell people this, if you're working for someone, make sure that they're working for you. And what I mean by that is get a job that's conducive to the future that you want to build so that you can make them pay you to teach you how to run your own business. So that way, when you leave, you didn't lose. You won twice because they paid to teach you how to build your business.
Yeah, I've heard stories of entrepreneurs getting valuable experience from other jobs and then taking that experience and turning it into the force and the know-how to help them build their own business. All right, let's see. Let's see. We got it's a very small, intimate group today, and we have a few people here. Let's see if they have anything they'd like to, if they feel the spirit move them. Let's see. How about Daphne? Are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you have any feelings about anything that we discussed?
Um, well, when you mentioned about the story about the bus route, like we could give them the first indication, like to show them how to get there, but then on their own we could take they had to get there on their own. So I want to add on to something about that. I work in the mobile crisis in New York City for 7 months now. So I kind of have an issue where I don't know how to like able to speak up with the individual because it is a short-term service. So I kind of let the social worker do most of the work. So I want to know like what skills or recommendations you will tell me to do in some way. I don't know if this is related or not. This is something I thought about it well when you mentioned that.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly. So basically it's like the social worker does majority of the work. And so it's kind of like you're trying to find your voice in that
Yes.
space. Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I did is if I felt something, I said it, even if it felt uncomfortable. And the reason why is because that's me, right? So if I feel the need to say something, I have to start exercising my voice. So finding your voice is an exercise like any other workout, right? It's going to be uncomfortable. And a lot of times I used to tremble. I mean, literally tremble when I would talk to my bosses about things, when I would talk to people in leadership about things, because one of my behavioral health challenges has been anxiety, right? And
Yeah.
so and so because I've struggled with that, I just started saying stuff. And eventually people were like, oh yeah, Thomas Jackson is gonna be Thomas Jackson. Like, so it gives me that, that emotional fortitude again to say, you know what, I'm going to show up authentically myself. Why? Because I matter just as much as you matter. Because now I don't see titles. I don't see, social status, right? What I see is another human being across from me when I speak.
Thank you very much. That's what I needed. The encouragement right there. Thanks.
For sure, for sure.
All right. How about Kim? Do you have something on your mind?
No, I'm looking for the peer job right now, and it's kind of hard finding the job. That's my issue, actually, not on the job yet.
Okay. That's all right. Listen, that's all right, right? So listen, I want you to know something too, that being a peer is not just a job, right? It's a lifestyle. Okay. Being a peer, you encompass that and you embody that as a person. So you're not, so finding the job is really is the finding the job that works for you is the most minute part to being a peer, right? Once you get there, that's when the work actually starts. However, finding a peer job is looking at companies that, companies that are, recovery centers, looking at recovery centers. Are they hiring peers? Looking at reentry programs, right? Because there's reentry peers, there's law enforcement assisted diversion, whatever programs that are in your particular state, like you could look at those programs and 99.99% of the time, you'll find at least 10 jobs. I can almost guarantee that. There's always about 10 jobs just on the national average, about 10 peer jobs that are available in most counties.
Yeah, that's not the issue. The issue is how slow the hiring process is. Like, but it's actually that way, I think, with every industry, because I'm hearing it from other people. Like, they've been waiting 4 months after an interview sometimes before they get the job. That's what I think the issue. I've applied to a ton. There's a lot, actually. But,
4 months.
But see, like the average wait time I've been told.
So
And,
so
and, and
where are you located?
New York City, Staten Island. Yeah,
Wow.
but it's like that everywhere. I actually applied to PetSmart years ago, and I went in there, and I just happened to be there with my dog, and I saw the manager, and I said, "You have my application." She took about an hour to find my application online, and I had submitted it like 2 months before, and she did like a quick interview, and I didn't even get the job, or I didn't hear back. Maybe they might be still going through it. I'm not even kidding. That was like
Wow.
2 years ago. I
Wow.
don't know what's going on, but that's sad.
So I do know, I can tell you a little bit about that. So I know for a while, since the budget cuts were happening, a lot of it in our state were for behavioral health. And so there was a hiring freeze for a very long time for peers across the country because no one knew what was actually going to happen to their particular programs. But I don't know when the fiscal year restarts, but that's typically when they start actually hiring. So they were probably doing like interviews to have people set up, so that way when they did have the financial means to be able to hire them, if they were able to hire them, and some probably got their programs cut. There's a lot of programs across Washington state that, lost a lot of funding that are no longer available. I know some of the programs that I was a part of and doing, we had funding cuts as well. And so that could be, when it comes to peer jobs and things like that for behavioral health, it could possibly be that. I would talk to your local healthcare authority to ask them, what peer jobs are available, or I don't know if who holds the contracts for a lot of the peer jobs there. But one of the things that I would do is try to talk to the person that typically holds the contracts, and it's typically the healthcare authority that delegates the funding across states for the peer companies. And you can look up the peer-run organizations, and then they can give you a list of those as well, and then you can call them those peer-run organizations in your area.
You said healthcare organization
Healthcare
fund
authority.
authority. Oh, okay.
The healthcare authority typically holds the contracts for peer-run organizations, and then they would
Mm.
have a list of peer-run organizations across your state, and then so you can find the ones that are in Staten Island, and then go ahead and call those organizations to see if they're currently hiring for peers and what's the waiting list for that.
Mm.
Kim, I'm a
A
little
lot of the,
concerned. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, there are few jobs that I applied to months ago. They're still available. That's what I'm saying. It's the process of hiring, I think. It's not that the jobs disappear.
Mm-hmm.
They're there. They're just there. Like, oh look, it's still there. One of them
Yeah.
I applied to twice. No, I went in person and then I also
Mhm.
online did it.
Have you applied to a company called Baltic Street?
You know, that is a job available full time. I didn't want to do full time to begin with because
Mm-hmm.
um And that girl, and I've been to their office on Staten Island. They're very nice, but he even said it's a very big caseload. They just drop it in your lap. I'm like, I don't, you know.
Mhm.
So I applied to a bunch of other ones around Staten Island, and
Are you
I'm gonna
getting
wait.
enough sleep, Kim?
Yeah, I sleeping pretty okay.
Yeah, you're getting how many hours did you get last night?
I actually got 6. I did.
Is that how much you need?
I don't know. I mean, it feels okay, and then
Did you wake up? Did you have, how's your energy today?
it's pretty good. It's all
Okay.
right. I mean,
You're
I can do
smiling. You're
I
smiling.
can do 4 hours. I'm good with 4.
You're good
So
with 4 hours of sleep.
if I do under 4, it's not good.
Wow,
Not
4 hours
good.
of sleep. I would not, I
Um,
would suffer with 4 hours. I need my 8 hours.
I'm a
yeah,
heavy sleeper.
when I was on medicine, I could sleep 12
Wow.
straight,
Oh, so
easy. I
so
think I have to
you're
admit,
able to you're surviving without medicine?
yeah, a year over
Over.
a year and a half.
I always
And
take my meds and they help me sleep a lot. Big improvement.
talk to us, Jonathan. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Nice. I'm psyched about like the peer support thing at the libraries. Smoking rules are improving on mental health campuses in Massachusetts, except for inpatients. So I always back Section 12s and Section 35s, but I'm, a little sore. I think if you lock somebody in a hallway and nicotine patches and decaf, it's not going to help really. So I wish that would change because I think there should be the option of Section 12ing people. You know,
Section 12ing people?
in Massachusetts, it's called Section 12 for involuntary commitment, which I still think is a better idea. If somebody's, really losing it, putting them in the hospital for a while is a good thing. But if it's on nicotine patches and decaf, we should still put them in the hospital, but I don't think it's going to help a whole lot.
Wow. That's a divisive topic. Forced treatment. Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
sort of misleading. Like it's easy to say, like I would never put my friend in the hospital, but that's not always realistic. I mean, like if somebody's having a really bad time, how they know that they're not going to go out and like crash their car or like, commit a crime or whatever, Like folks with mental illness are much, much less criminal
I have a
than you
lot of
think, probably.
family members who've been in car accidents. Should they all be put in hospitals?
Well, no, but I mean, if somebody's off their meds and they're like drunk, and I mean, you're better off in the hospital than like getting in trouble for reckless driving.
Hmm. I think with
Oh
the
man.
recent federal executive order, like from a few months ago, to sweep homeless people with mental illness off the streets and warehouse them into long-term institutions away from society's sight is under the guise of like protecting society from us people who the society deems as violent and crazy. But
Well,
we know,
And
but are we violent and crazy, Jonathan?
I don't know. I think people with mental illness tend to be less criminal than most other people. Like if you go insane, you're more likely to give a darn about other people than if you don't go insane. So I don't know. I mean, I think the better way to help homeless folks, like first of all, if you feed them great, you're going to have like much better success. But there's better transitional housing programs. So, like for example, in Boston, when we had methadone mild, which is the not politically correct name for where a lot of homeless folks were during like the opioid epidemic, but they were thrilled. If you put them in a nice little apartment of their own, especially if it's good quality, that's usually good enough. And the idea of having a place of their own is good too. So if you put somebody in transitional housing and it's a good quality building, ideally it's free. You have staff around, maybe security. and each person has a really good quality little room of their own, that's looking pretty good. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I mean having shelter is very important, but to help someone to succeed, it's more than just shelter and food. Those are the basics.
Yeah.
And then you got to throw in some other services.
that's
Okay.
true.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
it's kind of tough from there because then, like, and it's easy to say it's great to send people back to work or, get a job or whatever, but I mean, that's not always fair. Like working on a shifting schedule for minimum wage might be looking not so good, you know? I mean,
Mhm.
there's volunteering. That often is in some ways better. Like you can find a pretty important job if you volunteer, you know?
Can I say something in
Of
regards to this?
course.
Yeah. So where are you located? Where,
Me? No,
yeah,
near Boston, right near Boston.
Boston? Oh, okay, Boston. Okay. Um, so when people are housed, that's their basic level of uh, care. Have you ever heard of like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs or um
Yeah.
yeah, right? So, that's just a base, right, of housing and getting their basic needs met, right? So then the there's other factors that play into that person actually being well, right? And so, yes, the housing is the basic portion, but we want them to be able to maintain because what happens across this country is we're like, oh, this person's homeless. Perfect. Let's put them in a house, right? They get into the house and then they wind up leaving, right? Because number one, they're overwhelmed because they haven't had to clean a house for God knows how many years, right? So it's overwhelming for them. They have to pay bills, right? Which they haven't paid bills. They have to be able to manage their money for food, right? Which a lot of them have gone to the corner store and bought food and basic food and things like that. But when you have a home, it's very different, right? To manage your food. And so all of these other things play a factor in just somebody being housed, right? And I think that's a lot of the times where in the beginning we've missed is that we like, oh, they don't have a place to live. We got to get them housed. Boom. And now we have them housed, and all we do is say, hey, let's get you to behavioral health services, right? But there's all these other factors that play into that behavioral health challenge now because they have more responsibility. So it's not just putting them in these places, it's also being alongside them with the responsibility and showing them how to have that particular responsibility. That's why I literally created this book, is so that even peers can utilize these tools to be able to make sure that they're going through these things with these individuals and their needs are being met. Because if one of those things fail, it's going to fall into all the other areas of their life and eventually they're going to crash and burn, which typically is what's been happening. And they're going, oh yeah, I just saw John last month. He was doing great. Now he's back in for services. So then they look at the quantity of care versus the quality of care. And so my job and my heart of hearts and my thought process is we need to start looking at the quality of care and then start that way the quantity of care will be less, but the results of what's happening will be far greater.
No, you're mostly right. Like,
Uh,
it's not politically correct, but people they always pick on us smokers. So the part of the problem is like if you're like you see you're in the hospital, like the mental hospital, and they're training you for tobacco cessation, and then you move into an apartment complex and you like to smoke some to like help pay attention or deal with med side effects. People need to be supported to have a good outdoor smoking area and not to smoke a whole lot indoors, even though it's unfair that that could hurt their lease.
Yeah. Yeah, that's understandable. Their voice and choice. Oh, sorry, Eric. Go ahead.
no, I really liked what you were saying earlier, Thomas, about, I feel often peer support is hired by systems to help people engage with these systems in ways that work for the systems. And especially when we're supervised by others who don't understand the peer support model, it's easy to fall into that. And I liked what you said about really helping people to work towards build a life of their own dreams, a life of that provides meaning for them. When I was unhoused, it struck me that Maslow was never unhoused. You know, for me, not having a roof over my head wasn't the biggest need for me. For me, it was loss of family, it was loss of community, of purpose. And a lot of systems are really good at helping treat people like recipients. I had no value for myself as a recipient. I didn't want to do anything for myself as a recipient. I didn't want to live as a recipient. But to be a member of a community and something contributing to something larger, that gave me meaning. I remember when I was in a shelter, the first Thanksgiving and the first Christmas rocked me. Not
Mhm.
feeling how disconnected I was from family, but realizing it was true for the 40 some other guys in this crowded shelter. And that
Mhm.
it wasn't just that we didn't have a place of our own. It wasn't that we didn't have the same resources. It's that we didn't have that connection with others. And, you know, we found a little of it in the shelter, and that was really precious to me. That community within the shelter, as problematic as it was at times,
Mhm.
was more of a support to me than the social workers or caseworkers there. And, you know, the roof over my head for 90 days provided some stability and enabled me to get back to looking for work, knowing I didn't need to worry about where I'd be sleeping the next night. But yeah, I worry that a lot of systems are just helping people to engage with the system and even on the system's terms.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
compliant, take your meds, get to your appointments. We'll help you with those rides. You know, if there's somewhere else you want to go, well, is that really important? You know, and I think more than what I find problematic isn't just peer specialists giving rides to people, but giving them rides according to the direction of clinicians, not according to the directions of, hey, I really want to get to this community event. I really want to get to the gym. I really want to go see this friend or family member or get to a park. You know, um, those sorts of rides are more meaningful to me. And helping people even to start to dream of things
Mhm.
that aren't treatment, aren't things that are being done to them, but that are things that people are doing for themselves, or even
Yes.
ways that they're contributing to the community and engaging with the community and feeling like they're part of something bigger than themselves and contributors, participants, not recipients.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, and I don't know if you like have got the opportunity to look at a lot of what we do here in Washington State, for as peers, but that's what it's about. It's about empowering the individual to do just that, to have that voice and choice, right? So that's super important, like for the individual and having that community. You're right. Community is a thing. We were never meant to walk this earth by ourselves, right? It was never happened. And so again, when I say a lot of challenges come from that, so in the substance use disorder area, is people, it's not that they have this addiction problem, it's that they found something to bond with at the lowest point of their life, and that bond has side effects, right? And so and that's the issue. It's like, how do I help you engage in a bond that's conducive to the future that you want for yourself? That's it. That's what being a peer is. It's like rowing a boat. It's like, listen, man, I'm in this boat with you, right? You're pedaling one side, but I'm gonna pedal the other. And the only way we're gonna go forward is if we're both working together. That's the only way that this is gonna happen, right? And so you just tell me where we're going, right? That's it. Like you just tell me where we're going. You're the GPS, but all my job here to do is just to pedal right alongside you and make this happen. So yeah, 100% agree. And that's where that community and that trust and those bonds are built, right? And then we can work on, like you said, the other things that the stability portion, right? Just because I'm not using drugs or a person's not using drugs does not necessarily mean that they're stable, right? But most people think to society or systems, they feel that because that person's not using drugs and they have a roof overhead, that's deemed stable. It's not.
I was also really struck by Daphne when you were talking about working with mobile crisis intervention.
Mhm.
That sounds like a really challenging role for me, maybe in different ways than for you. I've gone with people to mobile crisis intervention when they wanted me as a peer specialist along their side. And I know that places I've worked, there are supposed to be maybe peer specialists embedded with mobile crisis intervention, but that always seemed like a really potential high conflict area with very different worldviews and ways of operating. I'm not in favor of, forced treatment or forced hospitalization, but that's kind of one of the main levers that mobile crisis intervention has, at least around me. I don't know if you've done much with alternatives to suicide, Daphne, or when conversations turn to suicide.
So when that happens, we that's why we ask the safety questions. Like most of the social worker ask safety questions, like, are you harming yourself, or are you harming, or do you feel like wanting to harm others? And that's where like we get to like make the decision as a team to like kind of like either take him to EMS to the hospital or yeah, which is a really tough situation. Even the social worker doesn't like that job because that part because it's like really removing them from a situation that they feel safe in my point of view. Like yeah, like for example, we had a case where a person was feeling very depressed, and he wasn't sure. It was his first time in the rodeo to having help ask for help for like because it was called from 98. So our job was to like ask questions and all that. And there's one part that we got really scared what based on what he stated. And with this statement, we had the decision to take him to the hospital just for his safety. So yeah, it is a scary moment for me. Sometimes even for the social workers, but what can I say? It's our job. And we can't force the person to like unless we see it, they're harming themselves or stated something harmful or to others. I'm sorry, did I answer the question? Yeah. All right.
Somewhat. If you're interested in maybe finding more of a peer voice in that process, I think some examples that you might see is with alternatives to suicide groups or trainings, or if you're interested, Wildflower Alliance does a training called When Conversations Turn to Suicide. And I don't know about where you are, but it seems that's where kind of yeah, I think
Is
I
it
don't,
possible you could write that down and send it to me?
yeah, I can throw something in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thomas, you unmuted?
Yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. So I could tell you that, he said that absolutely right. So I facilitate Alternatives to Violence project. I'm an AVP facilitator as well. I got a lot of certifications and trainings. And so But I believe that that's what it is. It's having the conversation, right? So one of the big things that I love to do is to make sure that I'm confident in what I'm saying, right? So even though I'm utilizing my voice and building that confidence, I need to make sure that the language that I'm using, because language matters, right? We all know that. Utilizing the language in a way that's conducive to, again, allowing that person to be empowered in making their decision and their choice. I've dealt with a lot of my father, my uncle, who was like a father to me, completed suicide, and I heard the change in his voice from our last conversation, but I didn't know what it meant, right? So now I know what to listen for, right? I know what to say, what questions. That motivational interviewing is another a great training that you can have. Have you heard of that, Daphne? Motivational interviewing?
I have not actually.
Okay, so I'm gonna there's a couple of trainings here interviewing. I'm just gonna I'll type them in the chat here as they come up. But like motivational interviewing, there's another one, crisis training through from Holding the Hope here in Washington State. It's called Holding the Hope. They do crisis prevention training. That's really it's really intense, right? And so I do a lot of myself. I do a lot of trauma work previous to that. So trauma prevention and trauma work with individuals that have either experienced trauma or they are necessarily getting to them before that particularly happens, right? So that's kind of where my expertise come. And I do a lot of coaching on, peer language, how to be a peer, things like that, which you guys, I put my website in there, like you guys can see what I do. But yeah, I'm not here to toot a horn or anything like that. I just want to, make sure that you guys have all of the resources that you have, that you need in order to be successful in this work. Because again, it's not about us, it's about it's not about necessarily myself, but about the people that we're serving when we're utilizing the tools that we have in our tool bag. And too many tools is not enough. you know so can never have enough tools.
I'm in communication with a person who is very depressed and in a lot of like psychic pain, a lot of like emotional pain. And whenever I talk to them, they're always like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Um, I'm having another terrible day. Nothing is going right. Um, and this is not just like one solo conversation. This is like almost every conversation I have with this person. And and I have a friendship project and they're in the friendship project. And so so at one point they asked me, are you still there? And I was like, yeah, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you. You say whatever is on in your heart and mind. And then they're like, well, I really need you to tell me what to do. And and I'm like, I don't know I don't know what you should do, but I'm willing to hear you out and be a sounding board and just listen and try and it didn't get to the point. Like I like to feel what I hear through someone else's voice, and I like to empathize. And they cut the call short, not like aggressively or like badly, but they said, "Oh, I've got to go. I've got to talk to somebody, another friend of mine." Who will maybe tell me what to do, and so they left me, but I like to wait and feel like the person's pain, the person's suffering, and then that gives me my voice changes. I can connect better. I can understand better. And it didn't get to that point where I could really feel what was going on, but because they didn't stay on the phone long enough. But I also connected this person to another friend through the Friendship Project, and and it's beautiful because I will talk to their other friend, and we'll talk about them in a way that's like not using professional jargon, just like human words, human feelings, and and see if we can just help them to understand that so much of their human experience is within their they have some level of control over
Mhm.
how they're thinking, and to give them that onus to to observe their thoughts, and to make and to realize that they can reject or accept certain things their critic says, and they can also increase levels of positivity as well. But but it's ongoing, it's long term. This person has been in respites and hospitalization during the course of being in the Friendship Project, and we don't have anyone's address. We're not calling 911 on anyone. You know, we're just there to listen, to empathize, and to be a friend. But it's hard. It's hard when someone is like, that seriously depressed every day, and doesn't see a way out.
Well, one of the things that I learned in crisis prevention is that, it's not about keeping it alive for the next month, but for right now. What do you have to live for right now, right at this very moment? And when a person is depressed, I typically ask them, I say, um, it's okay. It's not really, it's a human feeling, right? And it's okay to be there, right? It's okay because most people tell you that it's not okay to feel like that. So you feel bad for feeling, right? You feel bad for feeling sad. Like that's a human emotion. Like it's okay, right? But if I were at this point in my life, what would you tell me? Right? What would you tell me? Because you want them to think about the solution versus what they're thinking about, right? Getting their mind off of, I'm just so here. Well, if I were you and I was in your shoes, like, what would that look like? What would that look like? Or what does you feeling better look like, right? You've been in this position before, right? We know we have been here. So what does that look like for you, right? What does wellness look like for you? Talk to me about that. What does being well look like? And what did you do before to get well? Right. So having those particular questions, they're like, oh, well, and then eventually they're not even thinking about being depressed because they thought about all the stuff that they were doing to be well. Right. And even though they have that feeling, now you guys can create a plan together. Say, hey, at least once a day, they're like, well, once a day, I know I feel like this, but the last time I was feeling like this, I did some affirmations, I did some meditation, things like that. Okay, well, and then have resources. Have you ever tried this or some suggestions, right? Would you be willing to try something like this? Getting their mind like so just not listening to the problem but also helping them for themselves find the solution, right? Because at the end of the day they're the ones that got to do the work. Right, so we want to make sure that it's something that they're willing to do, wanting to do, but having that interviewing them right about what it is that they need to be successful.
Yeah.
I see you going, Eric. Seeing
Oh,
Eric. I see he's like,
Eric's
"Ugh."
going. Eric's going. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking also, I tend to be in a lot of conversations like this. And I appreciated what you were saying earlier to someone looking for peer work about how it's a way of being,
Mhm.
not a role, not a job description. I remember one question that always struck me as odd was people asking how long they've been doing peer support. It's like asking a a musician how long they've been a musician, or an artist how long they've been an artist. Are you asking when they did their first paid gig, or when they gave up side jobs, or when that's been their passion, their identity, a large part of who they are, you know? And right now I'm in between jobs, and it's been a nice opportunity to reconnect with the
Mhm.
meaning of this, independent of what any supervisor is telling me I should do or how I should do it, and finding how core it is to who I am. And how, yeah, it was nice to be able to. I always thought of it not as a paycheck, not as an inadequate paycheck, but a really generous stipend to do what I wanted to do anyhow. But I think for better or worse, I didn't see myself as doing it for the company, but doing it for the people seeking peer support in a way that didn't create problems for the company. But really doing it for the people whose lives we were talking about, and it was their lives. Um, yeah, so really enjoying this conversation and connecting with all of this, and I really appreciate your vision.
Oh,
Eric, that's a beautiful way to look at that. I like your point of view.
thank you. It was awesome. This is awesome. To be honest, I did not know what to expect coming in. Eric's like, hey, we're just gonna, me, Dan's just gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna talk about some things. And, I'm like, all right, let's do it, and man, it's so good to see individuals with a true pure heart that really want to see, like, it's not just here in Washington State, but it's all over the country, like peers that are really wanting to see people well. Like that, it just makes my heart so happy because it's in our state, we're only such a ripple in the big, United States, but it's like to know that there's people in every corner of the state that are really working to see people well. It just makes my heart happy. And I'm thankful for your guys' insight, that you've given me today on what's going on across the country and, what you guys are doing and the heart that you have to see people well. I'm honored to be here for sure.
I have a friend out in Kennewick, or in the Tri-Cities area in Washington State,
Really?
who is really interested in moving into peer support. And she hasn't done work in that area yet. But do you have any thoughts? And I know other people out in Washington State as well, through a faith-based peer support organization called Open Circle Network. But
Okay.
but do you have any ideas? And they wouldn't be doing faith-based peer support, and they understand the separation and all of that. But do you have ideas for people who might not have been involved in the peer support jobs, of how to explore moving into doing more of it
Yeah,
as of
like if a person hasn't not like been necessarily into like if a person hasn't been into peer support and they really are just trying to figure out like what's for them, I would tell them to explore. First off, just get your certification, right? Once you get your certification, you can try, right? To like, hey, you might want to be a family peer, you might want to be a SUD peer, you might want to be but it's okay to explore. Like the once you get your certification, you're certified, you can be certified to work in any area, right? In granted, you don't have to hold, I'm actually in Tri-Cities, so yeah, right. That's so cool. So like you don't have to, you're not hostage to one particular field of peer support, right? Do what works for you. It's okay to try different things, and that's it, right? It's such a big option, but we think that because I've only been this, right, that I can't relate to someone else. And I tell people all the time, we're all relatable to one another because we can relate to each other's emotions. Like, right? Like, I'm pretty sure everybody on this screen's been pissed off before, right? I'm pretty right, or I'm pretty sure that, you know, everyone's had that moment of sadness, or everyone's had that moment of frustration, right? We can connect to the human emotions. Like, man, were you frustrated? Listen, I don't know what you, I don't, never been in that situation, but I sure know what it's like to feel frustrated, you know, about something that's not happening for me that I want to happen right now. Like, we've all felt that. And so I tell people all the time, in any portion of peer support, you can relate. It's just where you feel safe and comfortable, right? I want you, it's at the end of the day, your safety is number one, right? And so wherever you feel safe doing the work, do it there. And when you get comfortable, figure it out. It's all for you. It's voice and choice.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas.
For sure.
Thank you.
We
Good
are
advice.
living in a very globally challenging time where the divisiveness in humanity is, or perhaps it's like the vocal minority is so loud that everyone's afraid of them. But certainly elected officials all over the globe are representing rigid views on economics, politics, and it also and scapegoating of people with mental health and substance use is going on probably radically more than it's ever been in years all over the globe, and certainly in this country with the executive orders to punish people with mental illness in terms of like forced treatment, sweeping our peers off the streets and into and bringing back the long-term institutions, those giant edifices where they throw you in and your family can't even get to you. I mean, we already have this in the carceral system, but it's and and you know, record numbers of people with mental health challenges are in the carceral system. Oh, it's a mess. Well, what do we do? What do we do? And like, how do we survive? And how do we help, etc., etc.?
I think that, you know, in those particular spaces is again just honor the emotions, right? Like, honor the emotions that people have, right? Their feelings are very valid, right? However they feel, in whichever way they feel it, right? But what are the outcomes? And that's what I say. What is the outcome of what you want from this situation? And if you have the resources, give them the resources. But every person that you come across, you don't have to peer them, right? You don't have to be a peer, and you may not have the resources. So it's okay to pass them on to someone else that may be a better fit, right? If it's not conducive and it doesn't align, that's part of having boundaries as a peer, right? It's like, hey, I care about you know, you as an individual person. I may not see things the same way. However, I do know someone that may be a better fit, and that's okay. Right. And so, but honoring how they feel and validating their emotional space is super important. Right. And so I have people that have very different views than I have. Right. But it does not necessarily mean it makes me more right or it makes me more wrong. It just makes me who I am.
Who's going to write the book called Peer Support in a modern dystopian setting? No, peer support in dystopia or
Well,
something like that.
my next book is coming out here soon, so you guys got to be on the lookout for that. That's going to be a fun one. So I'll tell you the title of it. Excuse the language, but it's called "Society Ain't SH asterisk I asterisk T."
I think we know what that means.
Yeah. So, but it's really focusing on um breaking the societal way of thinking and being your authentic self, like how important you are as an individual. Like we have so much power, but we've been systemically conditioned to think that society has all the power, right? And guess what society is? The bunch of people, individual people that said that this is what this is supposed to be, right? Versus, and you are part of that. It's nothing without you. It's nothing without your voice. Society is nothing without your buy-in, right? If we all decided to not buy in, then guess what? Society wouldn't be nothing, right? And so that's the thing. You're everything. And living in your vulnerability, authenticity is the greatest rebellion that a person can have to society, is being truly who you are. And that's where I want people to be. Like, stand up in your own power. Stop listening to the voices of the masses, right? They don't deserve you. And I tell people, I dress in hoodies and t-shirts. I've been to legislative forums in hoodies and jeans and Nikes. And they say, Thomas, why didn't you dress? I said, because people that look like me need to know we belong in these spaces. Right? Like, listen, this is me. This is Thomas Jackson. My clothes don't determine whether I can do the job or not, right? But it's going to determine how you judge me, right? So when I know that you judge me this way, then that's the end of the conversation right there. Because, right? So you just cut yourself out, but it helps me to understand the particular spaces that Thomas Jackson is supposed to be in and not who they want Thomas Jackson to be in.
I hope that you and Eric can stay in touch.
Yeah, Eric, listen, I put my website on there. That's all my contact information, my number. Call me. You know what I'm saying? Let's connect, bro.
Sounds good.
Yeah, for sure. Like, we'll make some stuff happen for sure.
That sounds good.
We got 4 minutes left, so why don't we just go around our small little room and we'll start. Hey, Kim, how you feeling right at this moment?
Good. I'm good.
Feeling good? Feeling what can you tell us more about good?
I'm just like, in listening mode. I'm in listening mode tonight.
Are you at peace?
Yeah.
All right. Jonathan, how you doing right now at this moment?
Hey, not that bad, not that bad. Pretty psyched about improvements in the mental health system. Yeah. And I moved back into my condo, so I'm pretty thrilled.
You're
I had
you're
to
in
have
a
a bunch of work done. I had
you're
to
in
have
a
a bunch of
condo?
work. Yeah, yeah. Got my own nice little condo. Yeah. Right
Congratulations, man.
downtown near the T. Yeah.
And how do you feel about tonight's presentation and the talk we've had?
I thought it was pretty good. We appropriately covered lots of important issues. So I think I'm pretty thrilled. Um, yeah.
All right. Thank you. Eric, how you feeling right at this moment?
I'm feeling better, knowing that there's people out there with a vision that's, in the same direction as mine, knowing that it can be challenging. Yeah, looking for some place that's a good fit for me. Yesterday, I heard that peer support group that I was facilitating on withdrawing from psych meds is no longer. The other co-facilitator left as well, and I thought others would pick it up. But, in hindsight, I'm surprised. I'm impressed that that organization, which was a human services organization, and hiring a bunch of prescribers and social workers and whatnot, let us have and, promote that group. But it came to an end. But yeah, um, that was one group where I felt it wasn't about helping people continue with the system and helping people who wanted to try to find independence from it and talk about goals that, their caretakers might not have thought were laudable or realistic goals. But yeah, looking forward to finding more spaces. And I've found a lot of them with friends and organically and through spaces here with City Voices, thanks to you, Dan. But yeah, looking to find more like-minded folk to do good work together. Glad to
And
share
Thomas,
space.
Thomas, speaking of promotions, I promoted this group to like over 300 people in an email. You know, I don't know where emails go. I guess a lot of them go into the spam or to the trash or what have you. But so sometimes it's random. We get a big group, we get a small group. We get a big group, we get a medium group, we get a small group. It doesn't matter. What happened tonight was magic. And Thomas, I'd like to ask, how are you feeling tonight? And would you like to close this out with some words?
Yeah, I'm feeling great actually, to be honest. I am just like I said, my heart's full because I had the opportunity to see like it's not just me, right? And again, Eric, that community is so important to, our humanity, to the work that we do, into, the overall goal of just seeing people well, right? The right way, right? And necessarily there's a lot of different avenues to get there, but you know it in your heart when it's right? Because you feel it, right? You feel it, and I'm feeling really good. The words that I would have to leave everyone with is that number one, you matter, and number two, it's okay to be you. That's it. It's okay to be you. Like amongst all the noise and the negative self-talk and the traditions, like it's okay to be you.
All right. Well, God bless all of us, and let's do our best to stay in touch with each other. And until next time, bye,
See ya.
everybody.